Hey guys, Kyle here with Zach Maslany. This is the Mortgage Celebrities studio. So he is the owner of 10th Planet Bethlehem, and you also have a couple others, right?
Got 10th or Finishers North, which is up in Stroudsburg, and then locally too in the Lehigh Valley, we have 10th Planet Allentown, which is right off Citronia Road.
Okay. And so I met you because I started attending your gym probably about 2 months ago. We did a self-defense class for real estate agents.
Yep.
And you've taught self-defense before. I think you were saying that, was there something that you did like on weekends?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of self-defense courses before. I've done them at colleges, high schools. I did one when I was a little bit younger. I worked for the Northampton County Juvenile Probation Department, so I helped out there. And I've done them all over the place, honestly.
So give me a little bit about your background. I believe you started off with karate, as you were saying, and then take me from young kid to like what got you involved in martial arts.
So basically, when I was a kid, there was no jiu-jitsu or MMA. It was pretty much just karate school. So my dad loved Chuck Norris. And he was like, you know what? I'm putting the kids in. Me and my younger brother got a chance to go to karate school. It's called Master Glacier Karate. I was in Bethlehem, right off 191. It changed to Tiger Schulman's, and I eventually got my black belt there. They kind of changed over from a traditional karate to jiu-jitsu, grappling, and MMA and boxing. So started up with that. A lot of people quit when they changed it over because they were like getting demoted belt-wise. Like, they're taking away my purple belt. And then I went from there. There was no like MMA gyms around. UFC came out, kind of took some time off. I was working some jobs, got my college degree. And then one day I was like, you know what? It's going to start up a gym, and just randomly started it up. Took a while, but that was in 2013. And now we're running a couple of gyms. So it's been great.
Well, 2013... I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think jiu-jitsu was that big then either.
No, especially not in this area. Certain parts of the country, and obviously in Brazil, and like California, Florida, like there were definitely a lot of spots, but Lehigh Valley pretty much non-existent.
Yeah. And so you started the gym in 2013, and then at some point in time, I mean, through whatever, the Joe Rogan experience, whatever, it starts to gain popularity, UFC. What do you think was the real main cause of like that popularity increase?
I think for a longest time, I think people just didn't know that they could do it.
Yeah.
They would see something like that on TV and be like, oh, I don't, I can't fight, or, I don't want to go in there and get punched out. And, so it was like really hard getting people to understand that like this is a thing I can do. It's kind of like education more than it was just signing people up at first. So it took a little bit, but I think a combination of the internet, like Instagram, social media, allowed people to start posting things online where friends of mine have never seen any of my training or fights or anything like that because it was VHS tapes and nothing was recorded. So I think social media definitely helps, and also too, obviously UFC, Joe Rogan, all that stuff. Joe Rogan's the biggest podcast. People are listening. You know how many times people came in and said, I listen to Joe Rogan and it's taken me a year, but I'm finally coming in.
Yeah.
So that helped for sure. And that one big fight, I'll never forget watching it, and Dana White brings it up as like a catalyst that the UFC really started, getting really gaining popularity and making more money, was Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin. Okay. It was like it was a free fight on, I forget what, I think it was on Fox. It was the end of The Ultimate Fighter, and the guys were just going to war. They were just a slobber knocker, as if you want to call it that, but they were just punching each other out, throwing kicks. Not really much grappling, but both guys are bleeding, and then it went to a decision. They were just in the middle of the cage throwing down, and people were watching that, and right from there, like the UFC gained, and then I think guys who, played former sports were like, hey, maybe this is something I could get into.
Yeah.
So... and like I said, normal people that didn't play sports, like you never, were an athlete or whatever. Like I was just telling you about my friend Donnie off air. They were like, you know what, I can do this. And started more and more people came in.
I liken it to almost like golf. I mean, like you can play it you can do it at almost any age.
Yeah.
And it's a way to keep yourself physically fit. Like I don't do it to go in and compete, not yet. It's more of like a defend yourself, teach my kids discipline, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
you see all walks of life.
Oh, yeah.
In there.
Yeah, we always say you never know. You could have a police officer, rolling with someone who you arrested. You know what I mean? And they're both on the mat. And the other thing I really like about it is there's men there, there's females, there's kids, there's teenagers, there's every race you could think of. And none of that stuff ever comes up. People just come in. You just sign up. That's really the only barrier of entry is just actually paying at the front and saying, hey, I'm on the team now. Because you don't have to make the team. You can just show up and everybody's like, okay, this guy's here to learn and we're going to take care of him. So it is a really cool culture as well where people want to help each other out.
Well, the other thing I like about your gym, I mean, I've never been to another gym, but your gym specifically is, if you were to go play golf, to learn from somebody on the PGA Tour would be very hard. You'd have to know somebody who knows somebody. But where you guys are at, like the people that train, the people who, Renee and these other guys that train and run the classes, you're like directly in touch with the people who have the knowledge.
Yes.
Which is like huge.
It's definitely different. I don't know, maybe things get real big that like some guys are just untouchable, but pretty much, though, even just up to a few, I mean, you could still do it now, 100%, but even up until a few years ago, it was real low key where you could just pull it, like, you're like, all right, you watch a guy on and I've done this, like with Marcelo Garcia is like one of the biggest, best jiu-jitsu guys of all time. And he has a gym in New York. He moved to Hawaii now, but he had a gym in New York. And we were like, you know what? I want to go train with Marcelo. It's like basically saying like, I want to go shoot around with Jordan, or I'm just going to go play Jordan, and it's literally play Jordan one-on-one because he is, probably the best jiu-jitsu guy of all time. And we went to his gym. We just pulled up in New York, just said, hey, can we come? And they're like, yeah, sure. If you're, that advanced class was like you have to be a purple belt and up. And I think I was a purple belt at the time. We rolled up there, paid. I think I went like 2 or 3 times before he finally rolled with me. But I think, guys, when you do this at another gym, when you roll in and you're like also instructors, not that we're anything close to that, but we would show up there and he'd be like, all right, these guys are coming. These guys are coming. Okay, cool. Hey, let's do a round with me. And you're like, oh, crap, here we go, Yeah. And then he just pulverized. It's like basically, like Tyson versus an infant, I would say. It's like a cat playing with a toy.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I actually rolled with the guy. I did that with Eddie Bravo. Daniel Gracie was out here on the East Coast. Like so many guys. Craig Jones. You could just pull up to wherever they're at and they'll roll with you.
Yeah, it's not like they're like like Mike Tyson, the heavyweight. Everyone knows who Mike Tyson is. And wherever he is, people want to be. But I think the sport's going to get more popular, and you may start to see that more where they're not going to be as accessible. They're probably not now.
Yeah, there are some guys that they won't train with you, but like, still like John Blank, my guy who runs Allentown, he's my first black belt, and he's in ADCC, like we're going to Poland and everything. Like he's one of the best guys in the game. I think he's ranked, I don't know, he should be in the top 10 at least. He was up to number 4 for a while before he had an injury, and you could just go to Allentown.
Was that the sponsorship thing that you were posting about?
Yep,
so
exactly.
What can people do to help him?
So the money just goes to travel expenses and all that. Like jiu-jitsu doesn't have that much money. So some of the events, like you're kind of on your own when it comes to.
People are doing it for the love.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you will still make money, but it's like more of the prestige. Like you win the thing and then you get seminars and DVDs and like, or not DVDs, but, online, I'm old school. I call them DVDs. So yeah, I mean, you could just, hit me up or hit up John, pretty much local businesses and stuff. Like we kind of like tailor it towards whatever sponsor, what can we do for them? Like we might do something different for a, pizza shop than we would for like a company who runs a rash guard company, Okay. So we just kind of tailor it towards them. And then we have a couple packages and stuff, but that just helps with, getting a place to stay, like having, the right food for the weight cuts, like all the travel, like, it's tough. Like traveling and competing like that is definitely different than doing it at home. But the point of that is, I mean, he's one of the best guys, and you could go over to Allentown anytime and he'll kick your butt for free. You know what I mean? First one's free.
Yeah. I mean, so running a gym, what is the toughest part of that?
Honestly, the teaching and getting people good part, that's the easy part. part. That's like, we're professionals at that. We've gotten so many people good, from competitors to just people who wanted to get in shape. Like, I have one guy at our North gym that's lost like over 60 pounds.
Wow.
And, he started competing out of nowhere, but he was really started for weight loss. So I know we're good at that. We're good at working people out. We're good at, the like finer details of martial art. But the hard part is dealing with everybody's egos and just the amount of people coming through, whether it comes to the billing and the getting people, all that kind of stuff. Like, I still do a lot of that. We kind of like, between everybody working, we, have our own, jobs that we got to do. But that's the biggest thing, is just keeping everybody together as a team. I think that's the hardest part that I'm still learning on the fly, even running a gym after 10 years, is trying to get everybody to work together in a very ego-driven sport.
Managing personalities.
Exactly, yeah.
Essentially.
People would definitely, I think, call me a player's coach. Like, there are some coaches that I've been around or some gym owners too, that they have like a zero tolerance for anything. If you do one thing, you're kicked out or whatever, and I feel like, yeah, we do have a zero tolerance for a lot of things, like certain things you can't put up with, like certain behaviors. But for the most part, though, yeah, like trying to get everybody to be like, hey, you got to work with this guy. Like, I don't care if you don't like him right now for whatever dumb thing you think happened. Like, we need to squash these beefs and work together because we have such a talented room. We have talented coaches. Like, we got to let it work for us,
Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest part. I'm dealing with that all the time.
Well, it seems like you're super busy because, I haven't known you that long, but you just had an event this weekend.
Yeah.
Can you tell people about what that was? Because I watched it on Saturday. I mean, I loved it.
Thank you. That was one of the views. That's great.
Yeah, it was so cool.
We did so I've been running a jiu-jitsu tournament adjacent to the gym since, I think that one we started in 2015. Like,
Okay.
There was really no tournaments out here. Same thing. It was like, we call it the underground, because like you're doing these tournaments and sometimes fights even in like, garage, like garages almost, or like, gymnasiums, high school gymnasiums. And we didn't really have money to rent like a venue. So we just started it in a gym, and we run it. Thankfully, we have a big gym in Bethlehem. We were running it at another gym in Rockaway at the time, New Jersey. And it started off as a small thing and turned out to be like a huge thing where we have a deal with Flow Grappling. So it gets streamed. We have a streaming deal, and it's just a tournament at a gym, but we have a little, it's almost like a rite of passage now. Like, if you want to move to the next level, like, you got to win the finisher's belt. Like, you got to, work through that because so many good guys did it already. So it's kind of like we have that going for us.
Cool.
And, they know that I've been around not just my event, but I've helped a lot of the other events. And I've been at so many, like, all these random jiu-jitsu tournaments nobody knows. And I've been seeing the production of it. Like, our guys have done their own productions, and we have another production company we work with. And, through a friend who works for the We Defy Foundation, shout out to Sean, he hooked it up and got us connected and was like, look, if you want to run a tournament, like you want to run some kind of jiu-jitsu thing to raise money, you should talk to Zach and his team. Like, they'll bring a professional thing. And they trusted in us, and we ended up doing a jiu-jitsu tournament, 30 matches, so 60 competitors, title fights and everything on the USS Battleship New Jersey. So it was really cool. Like, when they gave me that opportunity, I was like, I'm jumping on this.
Yeah.
And we ended up raising over $50,000 for the We Defy Foundation, which is a nonprofit that helps wounded veterans get into jiu-jitsu or therapy or, kind of whatever they need. So it's really cool. And that's a lot of money we raised. $50K is a lot. That's ticket sales. That's, all this stuff. We got a lot of views on Flow. And I just think overall it was super positive and the people loved it. So
yeah, I mean, the aesthetics. I mean, you're sitting on the deck of an aircraft carrier, and that's where you're, having the tournament. I mean, it was a really cool event to watch. So going back to jiu-jitsu itself.
Yeah.
So you're basically the only name, not the only name, but the biggest name, I think, around here. What's, somebody who's been thinking about doing this a long time, maybe they've been listening to Rogan, or maybe they want to get physically fit. What does jiu-jitsu bring to them?
It really depends. Like, I always, tell everybody, like, it's your own journey. It's like you against yourself, which I feel like is really cool. Now, it is tough. I'm not going to lie. Like, doing martial arts starting off, like, knowing nothing is tough in a couple different ways. One, physically, if you never did anything physically, that's, it's difficult to do. So you got to like, people are like, I got to wait till I get in shape. I'm like, you just got to get started, And the second thing is mentally, because some people are used to knowing everything, like whether it be in their job or whether like they did another sport that they were the man at, like wrestling, and jiu-jitsu and MMA is different. So you have to like really be open to learning. But if you can do that, if you can get over the like you're probably going to not be the best at something right away, which is I know difficult for people to do. And it reminds me of that one book by I think it was Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. And that's what I just tell people, like, dude, I know this seems tough, but just sink into it for a month or 2 or 3, and I guarantee you'll become addicted to it. And it's almost every single time. Now, people do start and they're like, I don't think this is for me, and then they end up not doing it. That's fine, But the people who stick it out for a little bit, they end up becoming addicted to it, And I think what it brings more than just physical, because that helps, the mental part connected with that, like it changes people's lives, like it really does. Just like anything someone get into that is a positive thing. I think, even if it's just a mental thing and you're not going to compete, you get to be out of your head, like all the stuff you're working on here and all the stuff like employees and billing and all this stuff. It's like, okay, for an hour and a half, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. I'm just thinking about like, how am I going to do this arm bar? It seems like corny when you think about it, but also it's like, well, what else am I doing? Playing video games at home. Yep. You can still golf, you can still do all these other things, but man, twice a week you're in the lab learning stuff, and it's I think it helps in every aspect of life.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you that, it just starting out that, Renee told me, he's like, what's your goal for this? And I was like, I don't even know how to quantify what a goal would be, because it's not like golf, like you want to shoot, in the 80s or, there's a number you can put to it, but there's not necessarily, I mean, there is things you can do, but one of the things he helped me with, he was just like show up 52 days or 52 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And so that was my goal. And so that's going to be my goal until I do that. And already in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is mental. And, you go up against these guys who are blue belts and purple belts, and you think that they're just going to want to tear your head off, but they don't. They want to help. They want to teach you. And that's another thing that I think people should know is like, it's intimidating going into a gym and not knowing anybody and, trying to learn a new skill where you're the worst at it in the room at that time. But since I've been there, I'm no longer the worst. Like there's been newer people that have come in. It's very quickly that it changes. But it's such a cool sport, for anybody.
Yeah, I think too, I really give people credit who come in, even, for your team to come in and try it. Like, man, people have anxiety going to anything. Mm-hmm. Like they don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to be, bothered. But like this is it is an intimate sport. Like you're physically grappling somebody, so people become like your best friends, like where you've like went to war with this guy and then afterwards you're like, yeah, you're the man. And it's different. Like I played every sport. Like I've been to like slow pitch softball, and I like baseball back in the day, and I've seen guys get in like drunken fights there and they're fighting at the baseball game. Here we're going to this other thing where we're actually fighting and you're just cool afterwards, and I've seen guys like, it happens. Like I've seen guys tear their ACLs playing slow pitch softball, but I've seen guys like an accidental like headbutt or something, or you elbow somebody and someone's like, you're like, oh man, is this going to be like a tense exchange? He accidentally elbowed him. The guy's like, oh dude, no worries, I'm fine, you're good. Yeah. It's like people are apologizing, and it turns into a thing. Like sure, you have bad apples and, there are guys sitting out there like, I've been to a jiu-jitsu gym and that one guy was a jerk. Yeah, but on the general level, we don't put up with that kind of crap. Yeah. And most of the time, and if you're at a good gym, that kind of weeds itself out. Like guys who want to do harm or, just come in with a bad attitude, they don't end up lasting, because it's a thing, it's a positive thing, and we want to keep it like a family atmosphere, but we want to train hard so the jiu-jitsu is real. Like we're not faking anybody out. Like you're actually learning this. And you see, like you said, like before you didn't know anything. And now if a brand new guy came in already within a couple of months, you're like, dang, I got the drop on this guy. Like he doesn't know anything. So, and like I think that does something to people's confidence. Like when you're starting to like put it on people like that, or like even if you're not doing any of the grappling and you're just doing the striking part and you're hitting the bags and you're like starting to like lean into a hook and you're like, oh man, all right, like, you know, even if it's not much, like I think like your confidence level in other things in your life raises. Like I just do jiu-jitsu, but I talk all the time and I have to teach class. I think that has helped me go into like my next phase of like whatever I'm going to do, whether it's public speaking, being on podcasts, political career, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Well, the more you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of others, and the more that like you can feel when somebody's like more put together, you know? And I think, you know, like the obstacle is the way. It's so true. I mean, doing something hard is like almost the meaning of life, because you could go home and you could sit down and not do that difficult thing.
Yep.
And you don't feel any sense of accomplishment. You don't feel any sense of failure. You don't feel any sense of like emotion. It's just you're just existing. Going Tuesday nights, I have to go every Tuesday, and I go train with Renee, and I almost not dread, but like it's like this build. I know I have to exert myself for the next hour. It's like anytime you exercise, you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then when you get done, you're like, man, I'm so glad I did that.
I know, exactly. Yeah. It's had, even me who has been doing this forever, like if I go to another gym, like I vacation in Delaware at the beaches, and there's a gym down there, Stolte BJJ, and they have like a 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. class. It's the only class my wife will let me go to. But I'm like, hey, I gotta, 6:30, they're sleeping. I could go there, train, be done, get the bagels and coffee. I'm back at the beach house. They're just waking up. But even going there, I still, and I know I'm going to be fine, and I'm probably have more experience than most of the guys, except the instructor or something, and I still get the butterflies that I'm like, oh, I'm going into a new place. But, I forget which wrestling coach, maybe it was a Penn State coach, where he was like, yeah, coach, I feel this in my stomach. Like I feel that. And he's like, good, that's your body ramping up, getting ready to have energy. He's like, think about that. When you have that nervous anxiety like that, like where you're trying to figure out how to channel it, he's like, most people want to figure out how to get rid of that. He's like, no, you got to go into that, because that nervous energy is going to make you jump higher. It's going to make you run faster. It's going to make you, more, locked in vision on what you're on. So I was like, man, I got to start leaning into that even more. But that happens all the time. Like whether it comes to like, if I'm going to do I'm like, oh, okay, I get a little nervous before. That's good. You know, I think that's good. It's like your body telling you like, yeah, this is.
It's something you care about.
Right.
You wouldn't be nervous about it if you didn't care about it.
Exactly.
You did in some way, shape, or form. Like public speaking, always tough for most people.
Yeah.
But most people don't, maybe they don't care about the topic that they're talking about, but what they care about is being accepted by their peers. So they're nervous and they want to be, they want to give a good speech, and they're worried about how they're going to come off. But if they check all those other boxes, they're taking care of themselves, they're eating well, they're doing these other things, then the public speaking becomes a little bit easier, because that's not the hardest thing you have to do that day.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it really, it helps with a lot of different things, just besides, like we always say, the physical. But because you're doing the physical, I think mentally you start thinking like, oh, you know what? I should probably start eating a little bit healthier. That might help out my jiu-jitsu. Oh, I should. No, I'm not going to, I'm going to cut out. I don't need to drink a beer every day after work or whatever. And it really helps people lock into some kind of like, regimen, so I think that helps too. It keeps me training and every now and then doing comps and stuff. And because I'm like a, public figure in jiu-jitsu, it keeps me, out
honest.
of the bad things. Yeah. Like if I go in there, like the mats don't lie. They always say that. Like I'm just going to get worked by all my young guys, and they're going to be like, what's he up to,
Well, it's refreshing to hear that you get those butterflies, because like I said, every Tuesday, I don't know who I'm going to be rolling with, and it's like always a new person, and you don't know, but man, you build camaraderie right away. The person's always nice. They're teaching you something. Well, in my case, everybody's always teaching me something because I don't know anything yet. But it's such a refreshing thing.
Yeah, everybody gets that. Even in comps, like I have to tell the guys, like we had how many guys compete on the battleship? We had like maybe 6, 7, and I think like half won, half lost. So then it's like, hey, it's a mix of, I'm telling the guy like, yo, you did a great job, that was killer. And then other guys, I'm like, dude, it's all good. I've lost too. We all lose. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So it gives you that little humility of like, okay, now what can I do? It's only my fault. I have to go back and work harder and, get back to it, and every time, even if they lose, they always, after a day or two afterwards, they always feel better.
Yeah.
Even when I'm like, why am I competing? I'm like, why should I've done a million comps. I don't need to do this. I could be sitting at home with the family. No one's, because if I get smoked, everyone's going to be like, blah, blah, blah. And these are the things that just go on in your head. And then once it's over, you're like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
It feels so much better. It's like, then it's like, I always tell people it's like going on a roller coaster, like not just competing, but training too. It's like my son. He don't want to go on. I don't want to go on the slide, Dad. It's too big. You put him on it. He goes down. Guess what? He wants to go again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that first one. You just got to get it in there, and then you're like, okay. It's the same with training. You do that Tuesday, and after a while, you're like, dude, I want to. I was so nervous before. I don't know why. I like this. You know what I mean? And not many people will do that stuff. Like talking about doing the hard things. Not many people will force themselves to do that. They'll rather just like take the comfort at all times.
But I think if they start doing the hard things, then it becomes addictive. Like somebody asks you to do something. Like I told myself a while ago that I was just going to say yes. Like if somebody asked me to do something, I'm just yes.
Nice.
Yes. Not like the movie, the Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
Yes
That's what I
Man.
was thinking of
But practical things, like and that's why when Renee asked me, like, "You're gonna come?" and I was like, "Yes." I got no reason to say no, so let's do it. Except for the kids and the family at home. My wife's like, 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, that's our busiest day. Like, what are you doing? I was like, give me this hour. I'll give you, whatever else you need.
That's a good thing. That's the other thing, is the compromise. Like some kids, they got no life, job, whatever. They can just train all day, you know? And that'll be funny sometimes, because it'll be like, oh, man, I can't come every morning now. I had to get a job. I'm like, what? How did you not have a job this whole time? Who the heck is paying for your training? But I think that, too, like a lot of the guys especially, and some of the girls, too, like they just – it's like, hey, I got the family. It's great. I love being with my family. That's my number one thing. Obviously, I have to work because I have to make money to provide for my family. But I still need like that hour or two a week or whatever it is to get in and get out. And I tell some of the guys are sitting around. It takes them 4 hours, an hour and a half early to train. I'm like, bro, you could just I've done a lot of time management with guys. I'm like, bro, you could just leave, have your stuff with you already. Well, I got to stop at home and get my food. No, have that done. So it is teaching people to be prepared too. Is you're like, you got to leave work at 5. You're going to eat food when you get to the gym. You're going to change your clothes there, then train, and then leave immediately afterwards. Like change your clothes and leave. Don't stand around. I know you want to talk to guys and everything, but get home, so you get those 2 hours of that mental, getaway.
I always hate when I hear somebody go, oh, must be nice to have the time to do that.
Oh, I know,
like, get out of my, because I make the time,
Yeah.
And that's, if it's important to you, you make the time. I hate when people say that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't have time for, but
Yeah.
this is one of them, you know?
So what are your goals moving forward? Because obviously you got your black belt, you're doing comps still every now and again, but what does the future look like for you?
Honestly, just to go off what you said, I'm just saying yes to a lot of stuff. I mean, my wife currently is just quitting her job. She's in her last week of her current job, so she's going to be home a lot more, which is awesome. So I think for me, my goals are just spend more time with my family, especially because she's going to be home. So we're going to be able to do some vacations, and I'm hoping they can travel with me to a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff that I always have coming up. I want to work more with that We Defy Foundation. If I could do more for charity, that's great. And I'm applying to some big jobs that I feel like right now at 43, I'm like finally, before I know I could have done them, now it's like, now I have the resume for it that I just, I really want to, make the next step, whether it's, for UFC or Craig Jones or whoever I'm working for, in the future. I know they're working on some big things. I want to get to the, be a, ambassador at the top of the sport. Because I do feel we didn't talk about any of the negative stuff, but in some of the higher level competition stuff going on right now, I don't like the direction some of it's going. So I feel like I'm like an anti-hero, if you will, where I can come in and, you may not like my approach, but we're putting out a professional thing, and I want to take out some of the bull crap in jiu-jitsu. So that's kind of like, in competition jiu-jitsu. That's one of my goals. And I'm actually working on getting my realtor license too. So I'm going to get into real estate. I feel like at the end of my career here, not that it's over, and I always say like Ric Flair, I'll never retire, but also too, I do realize I'm getting older, and I don't want to have to teach 8 classes a week, 6 classes a week for the rest of my life. I would like to be able to set myself up through, like I said, either real estate, owning more gyms, and I'm getting into politics too as well. I got on the Bangor Borough Council, so we'll kind of see where that goes. So I feel like I got the time for that kind of stuff. And I just want to be a pillar in the community and see where it takes me.
Well, we got a black belt in real estate over here, so
let's go.
We're gonna be able to help
I'm
you
a
out
white
with
belt.
that. Yeah, well, we can train each other in opposite fields. Going back to what you said, I'm so new that I don't even know, but like, what are some of the negative things that are happening in competition?
So,
if you care to talk about
yeah, no, for sure. I think it's important to be said. I think some of the competition, the bigger competitions that are for everyone, are kind of like taking advantage of the jiu-jitsu consumer, since there is a lot more people. They're charging out of these world prices, $170 for a competition, where you could go there and lose in 10 seconds. Some of the ones that are more expensive or a little bit more prestigious and a little bit more professional sometimes. And then some of the other ones are not. So there's like, just bad actors. Like you go to a baseball game and there's people fighting at the game, that kind of stuff. Like it's youth sports in general. I don't know if you see any youth sports or if you're see any of that online, but there's some bad things going on in youth sports. It's getting corporatized and it's pushing out like family businesses, family-owned stuff when it comes to sponsorship levels and all that. And it's becoming corporate where they just don't care about your kid. You're just another, as opposed to it feeling like a family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm the finishers open, like when we do the open, we'll have to shut it down at 130 competitors. And that's just at the gym because so many people want to do it because we know we're going to take care of them. So the bigger the sport gets, the more moving parts there are. So like, for instance, refereeing, you got really, really, really unqualified referees at some of these bigger tournaments. And that's a big turnoff because people are going to get hurt. People are getting hurt. I've seen people get hurt. And I've been pretty vocal about it online. And, people attack me and stuff for it. I don't really care. But I think it needs to be said, like, if you're going out there, you need to have professionals reffing these events. You see a person pass out. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. People aren't going to tap, but the ref has to be there to save that person. You're seeing people, do an illegal technique and a fight breaks out. It's not like widespread. It's at certain tournaments, but I think, it's something that needs to change. And the reason why they're able to get away with that is because they're just trying to get the money,
Yeah, I mean, if you're spending that much money to compete, you should have the best of the best there.
Yeah, you need the refs that are really, really qualified, and they're just not using that. And, that's why I was trying to get a job for UFC BJJ because they're starting their own tournaments now. Like UFC is getting into jiu-jitsu, which is big time, and they got unlimited amount of money, and I'm nervous to see what they're going to do with it because it's like, not that it's make or break for the sport, but if the UFC blows it, it's like, man, like people are just going to be delegated to the underground forever.
What do you think of the mat that they had, like the style?
I like that mat. I like the Craig Jones one better, the squared, the octagon, or not octagon. It's more like a rectangle type thing. The bowl just seems like, I don't know, it just seems weird, like on the edges when guys are sliding down. I like them this way more as opposed to this way. Yeah, but I mean, either way though, it's good because people will back out, like guys running away. People are backing out of the competition mat area, so that kind of solves that problem. You kind of can't run, so either one of them is good, but and I'm not trying to make it like a negative thing either. I just think that there are, for a growing sport that's going through growing pains, like I think like this is a critical time when, people are just going to take their kids out of it. They're not going to put their kids in a thing that, they don't understand the competition level of it. Like kids that play t-ball, they compete in baseball, they compete in wrestling. Wrestling's got it figured out. Now, you will see people fight at a wrestling tournament every now and then, and that's unfortunate. And there are some crazy wrestling parents. I've seen them, I've known them, but they got it down pretty good when it comes to like keeping it chill. I just think the bigger things get, the harder it is to control. So I don't know if these companies are willing to take less of a cash grab, if you will, to make sure it's more professional. Because they're like, hey, we'll sign up 1 million people. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then you got some person who has like a year or two experience training, reffing a match. You know, they just don't know how I know it. They just don't know how a black belt or someone who's been around forever refereeing, you know, knows it. Like it's hard to jump refs in at our tournament. Like I don't. They're just like, let me ref, and I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's a liability if someone gets hurt.
Yeah, it's on you.
You know, yeah, especially if it's like egregious and you let it happen. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to keep coming to the gym, and I love the gym you have set up. And anybody out there who wants to, where can people find you?
You could get me on Instagram is like the easiest one. It's Big Uncle Zach Maslany. If you just search Big Uncle Zach, it'll show up probably. There's not that many Big Uncle Zachs out there.
Yeah.
Or you could just search all things finishers, or if you go online, it's the easiest one is finishersmma.com.
Yep.
And if you put your name and number in there, it's a good chance that I'll be the one texting you, or one of my guys, and we'll get you in. No experience necessary. I always tell people we have new people starting up all the time.
Yep.
I mean, how long have you been there again?
I think I've been there almost 2 months now.
2 months, and you've already seen new guys start.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We might lose a couple guys, college kids goes home, dudes don't like it, whatever, but we'll literally sign up 15 to 20 people a month. So there's always new people coming in, and no experience necessary, and you don't have to know somebody. You can just show up, and I promise you we will take care of you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a testament to that because everybody's nice. I'm learning something. It's fun. It's physical. It's challenging. It checks all the boxes as far as what you would want in I mean, I hate to call it a hobby. It's more of a lifestyle in a way, but It can be a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a hobby. People, they dabble in it, but it's hard to because, like you said, it gets pretty addicting where guys are showing up at different times and trying other gyms and everything. So
my YouTube feed used to be conspiracy theories and sports stuff, and now it's just all different
jiu-jitsu stuff.
Structures.
Yeah, my algorithm on Instagram is the same thing. It's dad kid stuff, dad son, MMA jiu-jitsu, and every now and then some sports stuff, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, mine's white belt jiu-jitsu fights 10 college kids at once, just to see if he can beat them or whatever.
Yeah, those are out there. There's tons of videos.
Well, cool. Thanks for coming in, and it's been another session on the Mortgage Celebrity Studio, and we'll see you guys next time. Like and subscribe.